the Sage Ryan thing, which had everybody on real, had a bunch of angst, I would say, last week, and it appeared that it was trending to Alabama. LSU rallied the troops up, and in what was a pretty emotional ceremony on Saturday, the safety from Lafayette Christian picked LSU.
Yeah, and imagine how much angst LSU had. I mean, look, I think that my best way to sum up what happened and how we kind of got through that week into Saturday with him picking LSU was LSU had gone through that process for so long. And look, he's a five-star, number one safety in the country on 24/7 Sports, the real deal. I mean, he's got Alabama and Clemson as other teams in the final group. But he's about the only guy you could have ever said, he's still going to wind up at LSU. You can throw all those teams in there, sure, they can do all they want. But when you're related to Kevin Falk, who's on staff, when you're related to Trev Falk, who obviously was a great linebacker for the Tigers, when you play in Lafayette and you've got family who want you to wind up at LSU, I think that everyone, I certainly did, and I think what we saw from the coaching staff was, yeah, they recruited him, but they never had to really get down in the weeds with him until the end, and they realized, oh, watch out. Alabama is not only in this, but they're about to grab him. And that's when I think we saw Corey Raymond, Kevin Falk, and very notably Trev Falk kind of get down, take the gloves off, sit down with Sage and have conversations that you didn't really ever think you were going to have with him. Let him make his decision, and he's probably going to wind up at LSU, and you can kind of coach him up from there. But they went all in on the family angle, and Charlie, you mentioned it, an emotional decision. Everybody's probably seen the video by now, and if you haven't, I'm sure you can find it on Twitter. Sage just tweeted it. I've retweeted it, but it was all tears. And God, Trev Falk broke out the old school jersey, like when you would like take out the iron and put all the names on before you were even stitching them on. Like that was a legit game worn jersey there, and grabs mom and Sage, and he's crying and they're crying, and I think they let out the emotion of kind of how tough that week was to make the decision and make sure that he felt good with it.
This was definitely a position of need as well, Shay. I mean, this is a guy that could potentially come in here and play right away. Obviously, the family ties, but it seems like that was intriguing to Sage Ryan as well, because not everybody wants to come in and play right away. Maybe they're not ready for it, but he seems like he is game ready.
And that's what we're forgetting when the drama of the week is that they got someone they absolutely had to have from a need standpoint, because whether you're looking, and he's versatile, he can play corner, safety. They've mentioned nickel a good bit. I think if you want comps for him, like I'll try to avoid the Tyrann Mathieu thing just because that's an easy one to go to. But he is that kind of guy in the return game that you can move into the box or play around the line, or he can just be a pure safety for you. I think Jabril Peppers type body, Malcolm Jenkins type game. Some people have said a little bit of a Landon Collins. Collins a little bit taller than he is, but you get the sense of the type of player they're getting. And I think he's someone that's going to come in and help right away. And what we've seen from the defense this year, he could be playing. I mean, he's going to come in as a freshman and be just as talented as most everyone in those two rooms. So I'm interested to see where they're going to use him. At 5'11 and a half and playing at a little over 200 pounds, he's probably a safety, but they feel like he can play in the nickel, and maybe that's a spot you put him in early.
Shay, this may be a dumb question. I'm going to ask it anyway. You usually don't see these type of ceremonies on a Saturday, on a weekend. Typically, they're done at the school. If they're not on signing day, they'll do it sometime during the week. I mean, they know the colleges are playing on Saturdays. The conspiracy theorists were out in full force last week that this was because it was Saban's birthday. Do you ever say why he did this on a Saturday? Why he picked Saturday?
Because it was Saban's birthday. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think that Alabama was in a spot, not where they said, look, you have to do it on this day, but from everything I've gathered, and this is coming from all sides, is that when that smoke came earlier in the week and he set the decision date, he had been talking to him for a couple of weeks about, okay, I think I do want, I think I may be leaning towards going to Alabama, to committing. And they had been in his ear a good bit and really been in the weeds with him. And I think that, yes, you would certainly believe that Alabama, if they could have even the smallest hand in it, would say do it Saturday, do it on Saban's birthday, do it on game day. Yes, I totally believe that. And Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Nick
So,
Saban.
so, so you're telling me that this kid on purpose made his announcement on Saban's birthday, but he just did it to go to LSU?
I think at one point, whenever he set his announcement date, in his mind he was leaning towards Alabama, and it was.
And he kept it on Saban's birthday, even though he knew he was going to LSU. I like this kid. I'm a fan.
That's what the Alabama side kind of said whenever I was like, look, LSU's gaining confidence. They said, well, then he'll probably push it back, right? Is he still going to do it on Saban's birthday? And sure enough, he did in Trev Falk's gym. So I think it was about as LSU as you can get.
All right, Shay, I could talk about this commitment because it is a big one. It wasn't the only commitment LSU got. Jack Bech is someone that you and I have talked about. I think this is one of the more undervalued recruits in this 2021 class. He is a bigger receiver that I think you can do a lot of things with offensively. Kind of give us a thumbnail on Jack Bech.
Well, if you watched the game Saturday and said, we're the dudes who care if they're wearing purple and gold, that'll actually go out there and show that they want that honor of playing for the Tigers. Not that I don't think the guys on the team value it, but they didn't have the energy on Saturday. They didn't have the love of what we've seen from teams in the past, and that's a guy like Jack Bech. And look, I'm not just saying give me 85 Jack Beches, but then again, he's led the state in receiving in back-to-back years. This ain't no scrub. He's a really good player. I think that the pause on him becomes, okay, he's 6'2.5", he's probably 210, you can obviously bulk up. Do you like him at wide receiver? Do you like him at tight end? Do you want to just kind of flex him out? He's an incredibly willing blocker and really good at it, whether he's playing out on the boundary or you have him lined up closer to the line and put some weight on him. So I'm with you. I really like this addition. And in fact, when Louisiana is giving you so many good players and you've got a guy who in back-to-back years is leading the state, who is well-built, who knows how to get open, who's a smart player, who's got bloodlines, take him, make the move. And you saw, he was committed to Vandy. Well, when LSU offered, within 24 hours, it was Texas, TCU, Mississippi State, Notre Dame. All of these teams were probably managing their boards and saying, okay, this is a guy we really like, we can move on. And when LSU did, it sort of flooded in from there. And he didn't let it go very long. I think he made it about 8 days before he went public with a commitment. But, yes, this is a kid out of STM that reminded us, and as he reminded me on when I called him for an interview on Sunday evening after he committed, that Sage Ryan on Saturday, Jack Bech on Sunday. Don't let people forget that Lafayette is very much an LSU area. New Orleans and North Louisiana. Jacob, I know you're here, but Baton Rouge, we've seen it all. Guys leaving, not from Boomtown. So I'll give them some credit there. Lafayette is still LSU country.
Shay, 21 commitments now. Let me ask my obligatory where are the linemen question, because you've got 21 commitments, you've got 4 slots left in the class, and you've got 1 offensive lineman committed.
Well, at first you said where are the linemen, so I was just going to give you 3 of the 4 will probably be linemen if you're having a dream finish, 2 of them being on the defensive side, Mason Smith and Corey Foreman, and they're still in good spots there. Look, these guys are seeing Ojulari and these other guys play well, and certainly in Ojulari's case, play early. And they're also seeing that guys like Glenn Logan and Neil Farrell are getting older in the program. Andre Anthony, there's room for guys like Foreman and Mason Smith to come in. So despite their season, and I've always been an advocate of this, now don't go 2-8 on me, but kids don't care as much if you're winning and losing, even in a year like this, because they experience that. They get it. They want to play with talented guys on a team that can compete for championships, and those guys still see that. The answer to your question is, if you're taking out all geographical ties and meaning Mason Smith, the most important guy left is Tristan Lee, and he's a 5-star offensive tackle and a guy that started 3 years of high school and he's never given up a sack. These are the Evan Neal types that Bama gets that can start for you for 3 years, that can be a guy that you watch Alabama, they're running left on. They've got a great offensive line. They're still running behind their left tackle anytime they can. And that's what Tristan Lee can bring you. And look, a year ago, Marcus Dumerville, I think he was the number 12 offensive tackle in the country. James Craig has commitment right now. The lone O-lineman committed is a guy named Garrett Dellinger out of Michigan. And I think I was trying to Google right as I was saying it, lost my train of thought. Number 11 offensive tackle in the country. Okay, so you've got 2 guys in 2 years who are top 12 tackles. You can get them in and develop them. But you want the 5-star type. You want the guy who's a top 3 tackle and that can immediately help you. And that's what Tristan Lee is. It's an LSU Oklahoma battle here. And really I think it's how it's going to play out in through this final month and however long he drags it out. But I still like LSU. And from the times I've talked with Tristan, one thing that's really stood out is he's always said, look, I'm looking at all these schools and depth charts, and playing early is important to me. Being developed is certainly important, but playing early is something I want to do. And a lot of these teams say, hey, look, come in and you can play early. But I'm also looking at a lot of these teams, and he has offers from Bama and Clemson and Ohio State. He says, I'm looking at their class last year. They had 2 5-star tackles. The year before, they had 3 5-star tackles. So I do see it in my path at LSU, and I think that's been one of their biggest chips to play here is that he is the guy, and if he can come in and prove it, he'll be on the field.
Shay, real quick, last one for me. We've heard so many times when big-time prospects have gotten together, they say, hey, we're almost like a package deal because we've been at all these camps together. We've been at the opening together, right? We've got a great relationship. How much of that do you really believe with Corey Foreman and Mason Smith?
I don't buy it. I think they're each going to make their decision separately. And I think that could also mean that they both like the idea of if they both land at the same school, whether that's LSU or Georgia. I think those are the two that you would consider at this point. And they've certainly gone to both together. They've showed signs of wanting to be a package deal. But when push comes to shove, if Corey Foreman feels like, oh, I'm going to stay home and maybe I will go to Southern Cal, and I'm just giving you an example, Mason Smith isn't going to go to Southern Cal. He's going to go to LSU or Georgia, wherever he feels like going. And I think that I'm buying into that these two are going to pick whoever recruits them the best, and they feel like they're going to come in and make an impact and be able to compete on the team they want to be on. I think that if it works out if it works out as a package deal, I think that's probably for LSU's best right now. I'd give them a slight edge on Georgia as being the team that holds the advantage there.
Shay, one real quick question to finish up, and this is out of the Bayou Ford chat, is Tristan Lee was viewed as an LSU-Clemson battle and now is being viewed as an LSU-Oklahoma battle. Is Clemson still in there?
They're in there and recruiting him, but I think at this point it's going to be either LSU or Oklahoma. Their two staffs have just done such a really good job with him and stayed out front. And Ohio State was creeping in there, but he ended up not going to their big kind of recruit weekend that the kids and their parents put on, and he was at Georgia and LSU for those. So just how he's shown he was at LSU and Oklahoma for those. So just how he's shown interest in the Sooners and Tigers is why I think that they're probably the two teams that have got the sizable lead on everybody else.
Go 247. Appreciate it as always, Shay. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
The Warm and Fuzzies, friends. There's a lot of good things in there. Play this segment again after the break.
Shay Dixon, our ray of sunshine today.
We're home of the warm and fuzzy feeling.
Yes,
so
absolutely, for sure. Thanks, Shay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.